Good afternoon, and now we're welcoming to the special edition discussing the most important events of the day, in which Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdul Ati participates in the 48th Executive Council round of meetings and the 39th African Union Summit in Addis Ababa. Abdul Ati is expected to hold several bilateral meetings with his African counterparts and top officials to boosting bilateral ties and mutual coordination on various issues and regional crises, as well as reinforcing the African mutual cooperation aiming at fostering sustainable development, realizing the African Union 2063 development agenda and the Continental Free Trade Deal. The top diplomat is also scheduled to head a ministerial meeting of the Peace and the Security Council that will discuss the developments in Sudan and Somalia. Meanwhile, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and Egyptians Abroad shared the informal consultations held by the African Union's Peace and Security Council at the ministerial level regarding developments in Sudan on Thursday. Abdul Ati's participation came within the framework of Egypt's presidency of the Council during February and Egypt's commitment to including Sudan in the consultations of the African Union. 13 foreign ministers and ministers of state participated in the session, including those of Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Angola, Botswana and Gambia. In his remarks, Abdul Ati reiterated Egypt's unwavering position in support of Sudan's unity, territorial integrity and the preservation of its national institutions. He rejected any attempts to divide Sudan or infringe upon its sovereignty, reaffirming Egypt's condemnation of the violations and emphasizing its full solidarity with the Sudanese people. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Badr Abdul Ati, also on such a Thursday asserted the deeply rooted ties binding Egypt with Ghana based on the mutual respect and joint cooperation. The minister made these remarks in a meeting with his Ghanaian counterpart, Samuel, on the sidelines of his participation in an African summit currently held in Addis Ababa. The meeting touched on regional and African issues of mutual concern, with Egypt's top diplomat hailing Ghana's president's pioneering role in the institutional reforms at the African Union. Also, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation met his Nigerian counterpart, Yusuf Tugar, on the sidelines of the African Union Summit in Addis Ababa. Regarding this important events that held today and the meetings of the Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdul Ati, we are now joined over the phone by the Ambassador Moataz Ahmadein, the former Egypt's envoy to UN. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Thank you. First of all, how does Egypt's sharing of the PSC consultations reflect Cairo's broader strategy toward the Sudan crisis and its support to the issue in Sudan?
Well, as you know, Egypt is holding the rotating chairmanship of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. Normally, the chairman of the council has to take a non-biased approach to all the conflicts, and here Egypt adopts the position of the African Union, which is the respect of the borders of sovereign countries and the support for the legitimate governments all over Africa. And this is why Egypt insisted on having Sudan to participate in the meeting, in spite of the fact that the government of Sudan has been suspended from the African Union since the change of the government, which is considered by the African Union as a coup d'etat back in 2022, I believe. But here this is the legitimate government, and it is facing a challenge by a rebel militia supported by regional actors. I think this meeting is extremely important because it deals with issues that are of danger for the region and for Africa, of course, because of the involvement of regional actors from Africa and abroad. There is as well the issue of Somalia, and here again Egypt supports the African position of respecting the internationally recognized borders and supporting the legitimate government, and of course opposing any militia or any secessionist movement, whether in Somalia or in Sudan, and this has been reflected in the meetings that took place in Addis Ababa of the Peace and Security Council of the African Union.
Well, Mr. Ambassador, how the bilateral meetings with the African counterparts with the Foreign Minister, Dr. Badr Abdel Ati, helped to boost the bilateral ties and coordination on various issues regarding the solving the regional crisis and to foster the sustainable development? How does this meetings help to address these issues?
Well, just another point regarding your previous question, that this meeting of the Peace and Security Council is of special importance because it comes just before the meeting of the Winter Summit of the African Union. The African Union has two summits, one in late January or early February, and the other one in mid-June or early July. So this is the Winter Summit of the African Union. This is why the meeting of the Peace and Security Council holds special importance. These meetings came just before or after summit of the African Union provide opportunities for the ministers and the heads of states or governments to meet with their counterparts and coordinate on the different issues, whether bilateral or regional. And here again, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which is especially active compared to his predecessor and to other ministers, is meeting with a number of very active regional counterparts, including Uganda, Somalia, Sudan, and I believe it might be as well an opportunity to meet with his Ethiopian counterpart to find a way to have a compromise regarding the Renaissance Dam. I believe this will be, of course, one of the main issues on his agenda. And of course, these personal meetings help to try to bridge the gaps in positions and explain where each party comes from, and of course coordinate the policies of the regional actors regarding conflicts like the one in Somalia or West Sudan.
Right. In what ways does Egypt balance its principle of non-interference with the active diplomatic engagement in Sudan?
Egypt started by, of course, supporting the government, and it supports the position of non-interference of non-regional actors, and as well of regional actors that would try to destabilize the country in concern. And of course, Sudan is of particular importance to Egypt, as we have more than 1,000 kilometers border with Sudan, let alone that Sudan was part of Egypt until maybe 70 years ago. So Egypt adopts a policy of non-interference, but at the same time it supports the legitimate government in Sudan and supports the official institutions of the state of Sudan, because if the rebellion succeeds, this will lead to, first of all, a huge humanitarian crisis like what is happening right now, including famine and including the death of civilians, but more dangerous as well would lead to the partition of Sudan, which is the fact that Egypt opposes and the African Union, of course, opposes, because it would threaten the territorial integrity, the idea of the territorial integrity of all African nations.
The foreign minister also stressed on Egypt's rejection to divide Sudan. How do you evaluate this, and what are the important procedures that taken to prevent any division for Sudan and to maintain its solidarity and sovereignty?
Well, Egypt has taken concrete measures to support Sudan and prevent its partition. We do coordinate with the African Union and neighboring countries as well. I believe that also the Saudi Minister of Foreign Affairs has traveled to Addis Ababa, perhaps to attend the summit. And of course, lately since mid-December, there is coordination between Egypt, Turkey and Saudi Arabia in order to support Sudan and confront the atrocities perpetrated by the rebel militias there and prevent any line of supply of armaments that contribute in destabilizing the situation in Sudan. These concrete measures, in addition to the political support provided by Egypt, both at the African Union and at the United Nations, and in the mediation that is co-sponsored by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States, all of these practical and political measures do help, we hope, in stabilizing the situation in Sudan, preventing the death of civilians and trying to help Sudan in order to organize elections and prevent exploitation.
Well, how does Cairo reconcile its security concerns regarding border stability, Red Sea security and Nile waters with the calls for an inclusive Sudanese political process?
Of course, the participation in the mediation and actually steering the mediation, the United States-led mediation in favor of the Sudanese government has made a difference, because before the United States was treating both parties at the same level. Now, after the strong intervention by Egypt and Saudi Arabia, there is a recognition by this quadripartite mediation that the government of Sudan is the legitimate party here, and that we should reach a compromise that would lead to stopping the incursion of the militias and stopping the lines of supply, whether by neighboring states in the region or outside. And here again, I see that the government of Sudan has regained the territory and has shown more flexibility in accepting a ceasefire proposed by the quadripartite mediation. All of this reflects that the intervention of Egypt in cooperation with other regional actors has started to bear fruit.
Mr. Ambassador Moataz Ahmadein, former Egypt envoy to UN, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching.